podcast on the Boss Up Houston Network. Come get your questions answered. We'll see you then. And remember, lawyer up. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It is Friday. We're bringing you yet another episode of Lawyer Up with Steve-O. I'm your host, Steve Okoraha. This is the show that we are giving you a lot of great information, and that doesn't change. It's going to be always great information. And this show is no different because we have a lot of very informative information to give you. And, you know, what we try to do with this show is to give you guys some tips that can really help you out in your individual lives and your business lives. And of course, you avoid having to come and see people like me, lawyers. But I mean, of course, I'm useful. I'm not saying I'm not useful. But I want to help everyone in the community and give them information that can improve their situation, regardless of what age, race, or gender that you're in. So a little bit about me. For those that don't know, I'm an attorney practicing over 9 years. I practice primarily in the Fort Bend and Harris counties. I do family law, I do business and contracts, I do estate planning, and I also do traffic tickets with just a little bit of personal injury and immigration. So feel free to come to me for whatever issues that you have. But also I'm going to give you a lot of tidbits on a lot of other aspects of the law. But of course, the theme for this season, if you don't know, has been trying to give you a lot of information of things going on in the community and things that you typically don't know about. We've been highlighting a lot of great guests, a lot of very interesting topics, a lot of different things that are going on in current events, and this is no different. This is something that's going to be very important. Today we're talking about a topic that most people don't think about too often. But they definitely should, and that is voting rights and gerrymandering. But not only that, we're discussing what is currently being done to combat the efforts to restrict voter rights and expand gerrymandering. For this topic, I have a very special guest I would like to introduce, who I consider to be my gerrymandering expert. She's currently the president of Texas Against Gerrymandering, a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization that leads efforts on proper redistricting to make elections fairer and reduce gerrymandering in the state of Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Miss Lydia Ozuna.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing good. I mean, it's Friday, so
Yeah.
it's always a great day to share some information with people and bring more people into the fold.
And it's a holiday weekend.
Yes, it is Memorial Day weekend. Hope everyone has good plans, and hopefully we can start off your weekend with some great information so that you guys can have fun. But yes, no, we're definitely have a lot of great information to get into, especially for those that are wondering exactly what is gerrymandering and what's going on with voter rights and everything. But of course, before that, I got to make you wait a little bit. We got to pay some bills and go to a quick commercial break. So we'll be right back.
Oh my God! I just got through watching a great show on Boss Up Houston Network. Have you heard? They're bossing up, okay? And I heard they're looking for you. Any podcasters, talk show hosts, if you're a writer or producer, we definitely need you. Come aboard and boss up.
Are you a small business owner that is struggling to promote your company?
Our topic today is, what's your status?
Shoot the dice at this point.
You just shoot the dice, roll the dice.
So,
Yes.
Hey, how y'all doing? It's attorneys.
I love it.
Imagine being televised on a national platform. How about being a host or sponsor on a syndicated podcast? Or being featured on exclusive promotions and interview for your product to your ideal customer? Hi, I'm Kayla Sneed, and I'm head of sales with Boss Up Houston. And here at Boss Up, we like to help small business owners and entrepreneurs advertise, promote, or become a sponsor for one of our television, podcast, or radio shows. All you have to do is click the link down below to see if you qualify. I'll be seeing you soon.
This is Boss Up Houston, where we look up, stay up, and boss up.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Like I said, we have the great information we're going to share with you. This is Lawyer Up with Steve-O. We have Miss Lydia here to tell us about gerrymandering. That's the first topic that we're going to start to talk about. So, what is Texans Against Gerrymandering, and how did your organization come into being?
That's a fascinating question because we have now a 4-year history. We started in 2017. A small group of grassroots activists, about 15 to 20 people in my home. And we did that because ACLU at that time sent out a call for groups to form around the topic of redistricting.
Yep.
And after the 2016 election, people began to realize something, and that was that the reason a lot of the agendas were not moving forward was because of the way the districts were set up. Mm-hmm. They were set up so that certain politicians would win, right? And if certain politicians won the district, then they didn't feel any accountability to anybody else because they already had the constituency to get elected.
Gotcha,
Right?
gotcha.
So our group started off by doing our own education first. We did a lot of research into the state legislation, federal legislation around redistricting. We learned about our constitution, the state constitution, and how it outlines the redistricting process. And by November, we started to realize that we were a small group based in Katy.
Yeah.
Right? And originally we had said we're going to serve the Tri-County area that is Katy, Fort Bend, Harris, and Waller.
Yeah.
But then we realized that when you're tackling an issue like this, what you need is state support, right? Or statewide support, right? So we found out that there was a coalition of people already that started the same year that we started.
Oh, wow.
And they're called the Fair Maps Texas Coalition.
Okay.
So 3 of us drove up there to talk to them about their work and see if their work and our work coincided, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And the Fair Maps Coalition is made up of organizations like Common Cause, ACLU, League of Women Voters, Texas Progressive Action Network, a group called Texas PRG, Clean Elections Texas, and March to the Polls. And they're situated, the ones that are not national and state organizations, the others are situated in the Dallas area or like us in the Harris County area.
Gotcha.
And we're a great fit. We work together. We help advance the statewide agenda as well as we work with our local constituents in this area.
Good. Good. And that's a much bigger coalition than I originally thought. I mean, that's a lot of different groups, and I'm sure they have similar interests. I mean, I've heard of Common Cause. I've heard of the League of Women Voters. You know, how do all of your initiatives kind of line up? You know, in terms of redistricting and
we each of those organizations, the larger ones, right? They have a person dedicated to deal with redistricting issues, and we meet monthly as a coalition, as well as emails are going back and forth all the time. Right? And so what we do is we design a plan for the legislative session, as well as for when we're not in session, right? And the coalition members decide on what to do. We collaborate. We listen to each other, and because each group brings a different strength,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Some, like Texas Civil Rights, they have the legal resources, and they help us with interpretation of bills
Okay.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Common Cause has the same thing. ACLU has the same thing. League of Women Voters has the power of all of their chapters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
They're
Plus,
a big group.
League of Women Voters made a very large commitment, not just in people, but in money, to advance the reform of what we are now trying to call community districting
Okay.
instead of redistricting, so that maybe people can better understand it, because it's a very complex concept,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's got very many moving pieces. Some of them are kind of wonky,
Yeah.
right? And the average person doesn't want to hear about the wonk.
Yeah.
They want to
true.
know, how is it going to impact me,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
And
yep,
so
yep.
we worked very hard to try to get that point across, right?
Good.
I want to also say that in addition to the original coalition members, we have another group of about 40 organizations throughout the state that are also working on community districting reform.
Oh, good.
And
Good,
that
good.
is because, say for example, if you are a proponent for the environment,
Mhm.
in order to advance your agenda, you have to have legislators that are willing to listen to you.
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to listen to you, most of the time it's because of gerrymandered districts. So on the whole, we're getting smarter, right?
Yeah.
We're understanding the connection between how your community is built into a district and how that impacts the issues in your daily life
Yep.
that you care about.
Yep. And that's actually very important that you touched on the different issues that affect people, and how the districts can limit those interests from even being acknowledged or heard. I mean, just like you said with environmental, if you believe in global warming and you want to maybe conserve some state parks, one party may not, have that same interest that you do, but you live in a district that your voice doesn't ever get heard. So
A good example of that is in Houston.
yeah.
With all of the emphysema and lung issues
Yeah.
in that area, over by the refineries,
Yeah.
right? They have faced a lot of environmental quality issues with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And as hard as their representative might work towards getting them resolved, when she's encountered with other people in
Yeah.
Congress who don't have any desire or accountability for that, you can't do it alone. You have to have the other legislators to help you through that too.
Absolutely.
So it makes it difficult for your representative also.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, speaking of, getting representation, everything, the census is one thing that, of course, we're always encouraged to get into, but what influence does the census have on redistricting?
The census is designed to count the population for two specific reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One is for funding special programs that the government funds and gives the money to the states, right? And also that they design to use federally, right? And the second reason is to make sure that the population receives equitable representation.
Yep.
Right? And so to that end, we go through this count process. Once the number is determined of the overall population, then the population, all of the states are looked at from the perspective of how many representatives does each state merit based on their population size. So we have some states that only have one representative, because that is the bottom line. Every state has to have at least one representative. But then from there, the rest of the representation is based on the numbers, right?
Numbers, yeah.
And every census, Texas has grown in numbers.
Wow.
We have never lost population yet, right?
Yeah.
And so each time the census comes around, we end up getting another person to go to DC to represent us.
Yep.
This last census merited us 2 more representatives to go to DC. So we currently have 36, but with the new census, we now have 38.
Wow.
So that means that you take the population of the state of Texas, divided by 38, and that tells you how many people should be in each community district.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the games begin,
Of course.
right? How do you draw the lines to create those community districts? And now we have the additional 2 districts, right, which is going to make it even more interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because that's actually was going to be my next question, is how does that affect our political process, and how is it used to favor one party over another? And if you can kind of get into all of those games that happen, and what are some of the biggest, most grandiose things that have happened with
in the
this?
past, or
in the past, present,
happen in the present. One other thing I want to say about the process of giving additional districts to a state, right? So for us it was 2, but there were states that lost representation because there's a finite number. There's 450 representatives in DC.
Oh,
So
okay.
whatever number of congressional districts are assigned to your state, they can't, the total amount for the 50 states can't go past 450. So that's where it gets interesting, right? California lost one because they lost population. And the reason they lost one is because we needed to stay within the 450 limit, right? The other thing is that the process of redesigning the districts because of population size happens with the Texas House, the Texas Senate, and the State Board of Education.
Oh, wow.
All right? And in the House, we have 150 representatives that are etched in stone in our Constitution, right? We have 31 senators that's etched in stone in our Constitution. The only one that can be changed by legislative action is the State Board of Education. And it, over the years, it has been, I think as many as 20-something, but right now we have 15, right?
Okay.
So you take 29 million people divided by 15 to determine how many people should be in each district for the State Board of Education. It's one of the most, it's one of the topics that it's least talked about.
Yeah.
And yet it has very significant ramifications for our children.
Absolutely.
Because it's the State Board of Education that decides a lot of things about what our children learn, how our school systems operate, you know, that type of thing within the parameters of legislative law, right? So those 15 people are critical, right?
Yeah.
Then going to the politics of all of this, right? Used to be that with the Voting Rights Act, we had a portion of it that is referred to as Section 5 that guaranteed that if a district had been previously found to be in violation of voting rights, then their maps would have to be submitted to the government in a process called pre-clearance.
Okay.
Okay? But then we had a court decision, I believe it was in 2013, Shelby versus Holder,
Okay.
that did away with that.
Mm.
And the reason they did away with that is because the standard for measuring whether or not a state was discriminating had never changed since it was first, since the Voting Rights Act came into being.
Yeah.
And the court used that as the reason for not continuing it and charged the legislature with coming up with a new standard, and then it would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But our congressional people have not done that yet.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Huh.
And going into politics at a nationwide level, that is one of the reasons the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is so critical, because it is the standard for determining whether or not voting rights have been violated in the state, not only from an intent process, but from an actual effect process.
Good.
Which will make a big difference.
Yeah, I know it's more about the effect than what is actually the things that are being done, because the effect is actually the results, and then that will tell people, okay, hey, something needs to change. One of the things that I was also wondering was, is gerrymandering specific to one political party? And does it change differently from state to state? I mean, I'm sure you know all about Texas, but kind of can you explain, the usage of it by the different parties?
Okay, so we have to look at gerrymandering as a corruption of a process that is designed to give people equitable representation.
Yep.
Okay, that's number one. So when you're the party in power, and you want to continue to stay in power, then you use gerrymandering as a tool.
Okay.
And you use it as a tool to silence voices of specific groups that you don't want to get involved. That's one thing. In Texas, our legislature is the one that is charged with that responsibility, right? And that's in the Constitution. So to change that, we need to pass a constitutional amendment. And that's one of the things that we advocate for.
Okay.
An independent citizens redistricting commission.
Okay.
And we have had both in the 2019 session and in this session bills designed to for that specific purpose.
Gotcha.
We were able to get those bills heard, and we'll talk more about that if you would like. As far as other states, we have some states that have independent redistricting commissions already.
Okay.
Some of those are Arizona, California, Colorado. Those that come to mind right away, there's I think 7 of them. Mm-hmm. And then we have 3 others that are considered to be a commission of some sort, but they're not entirely made up of citizens like you and I. Okay?
Gotcha.
They're either hybrid or it's a political commission that has responsibilities that our legislature does not have.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's one of the things that concerns us, is that our legislature's pattern of doing things is to do it behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And not to involve the communities at all. And there is no one that knows your community better than yourself.
That's
right?
true.
And so that input is so valuable. The Senate did a good job of hearing input from across the state. However, they have done it at this point in time, and it's valuable to a certain extent, but it will be even more valuable and critical once the census data comes out.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's when the citizens can have an opportunity to see where the numbers are and how things are going to impact them, right? And can voice an opinion about whether or not they believe that the line should be here or there. Right?
Okay, gotcha. And I mean, so it sounds like that gerrymandering isn't one party specifically, because it is meant to keep people in power and to keep those representatives going with whatever agenda that they have. And
For example, if you look at the history of parties in Texas, the truth is that the Democratic Party was pretty much in control for up until 92, when the House and the Senate split in party relationship. Right? One was Democrat, the other one was Republican. From that point, the Democratic Party's numbers started to dwindle, right? And so by the year 2002, it flipped to the Republican Party. So yes, when you look at the history also, and you start looking at the redistricting cases, all right, it could be as many as 50 years determined by which aspect of the Voting Rights Act you're looking at. That Texas has been doing this to its citizens, right? The important thing to note is that up until 2017, citizens like me included knew that redistricting took place because it was something they mentioned in government class, right? But we really didn't realize the importance of it or the impact that it has on our daily lives. Because redistricting also happens at the county level, at the city level, at the school board level, depending on how your districts are allocated at the school board, and in many other situations that we're not even cognizant about, right? So it, like I said, it wasn't until 2017 that everybody, or that many of us, started to wake up and say, now wait a minute, why is it like this, you know? And this is, like I said, it's a complex topic, but it is so critical. For me, it is the foundation for everything that occurs, right? And each party has done it, right? The other part to that is that 2010 was really and truly a point in which technology came into play in redistricting. The technology is so refined now for drawing these maps that you can literally leave out a block of people, carve it out very with precision. Right? Whereas before, it was a paper map that people were using, right? But technology has made it a lot easier, right? The other part of technology that has made it easier is social media. It's the surveys and the analysis of how people use social media. They have algorithms that can predict with some amount of accuracy whether you would vote for one party or the other.
Wow.
All right? And those reports are available to people in both parties to decide whether or not they want to use them, right? Your spending practices, all of those things go into that algorithm and to make that decision, right? So you have in our society now systems in place that make it a lot easier to corrupt the process of community districting to favor one political party over another.
It's kind of like how people have been talking about a lot of the intrusion by foreign people into like Facebook ads and stuff like that. It's just crazy that you can have, just based off of data coming out of your household, people, they can tell you this is how they're likely to vote, and then the lines can be drawn so that your neighbor can be in a whole nother district.
Correct.
Then you. I mean, it's very eye-opening. I mean, I hope that that's something that everybody has heard. I mean, this is what's really important, and this is how you get your voice heard, and why it's important to know these things, so that you put pressure on the right individuals representing you in order to get these things done. So. All right, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We got a lot more to talk about with gerrymandering and of course some voter rights as well. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Steve, I'm in big trouble. I need your help.
I got you. Don't worry, man. What do you need? At Goodman & McGill, we offer a wide variety of services catered directly to you. So come to us for whatever issue you have. We can definitely take care of it and offer you very fast and prompt communication and excellent service. That is our motto here at Goodman & McGill. Our services include family law, divorce, child custody, child support, name changes, business and contracts, estate planning, probate, traffic tickets, wills, trusts.
Thanks again, Steve.
No problem. Anytime.
Yes, sir.
Here at Goodman & McGill, we take care of all of your legal issues. Check us out online at www.goodmanandmcgill.com. Everybody. I hope your Friday afternoon is going well. We're giving you a lot of great information. This is Lawyer Up with Steve-O. We are talking about the issue of gerrymandering, and it's very important for you to know, how your voice gets heard, why your voice sometimes doesn't get heard, knowing the power of kind of what goes on behind the scenes and why certain things happen the way they do. And that's what we're learning about today. We're going to continue talking about gerrymandering, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up was the special session that's about to happen on the Capitol. With my limited conversations with some of the state representatives, it's getting very contentious. So can you go into a lot of what's going on and how it relates to gerrymandering?
Well, one of the things with the census and the pandemic is that in law, the census is supposed to give the results to the states by April 1st. Mm-hmm. Okay? However, because of the pandemic, all of the compilation of the data has been very delayed. It was supposed to go to the administration in December, but that was held up because the data wasn't ready, right?
Was it because of the pandemic? Or
the pandemic created a lot of delays, right? And also it became problematic because of, people being in their homes and
Yeah.
social distancing and all of that. So the workers weren't able to go out as early as they were planning on it to be done.
Gotcha.
And instead of ending at the date specified, they ended up in October, mid-October.
Mm-hmm.
So between mid-October and now, there's been this compilation of this data that you can imagine is huge, right? So the delay has caused for redistricting not to be addressed during this regular session of the legislature. So it has to be addressed now in a special session.
Okay.
And that special session will probably not occur until sometime in either October or maybe even November. And the reason for that is the complete data that they give to the states for them to do the redistricting
Mm-hmm.
is probably not going to be delivered until late September.
Wow.
There's some raw data that is going to be delivered in mid-August, but that data is not in final format. So each state is going to have to figure, if they have the resources, they can hire a company or whatever to put it into that final data, but it won't be the final data from the census. And then they can redo it when they get the final census report.
Okay.
So that's the reason we're going into special session. One of the things that we did this legislative session, as I said, is we had redistricting reform bills that we proposed. There were 12 in the House and 6 in the Senate.
Okay.
Of the 12 that were in the House, 6 of them got a hearing, but they were not advanced out of committee. The other 6 just were not heard at all.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing to know about those other 6 is that one of them, the transparency bill, sponsored by Representative Jessica Gonzalez from the Dallas area, would have impacted the special session because it created criteria for the process to be held out in the open and have a lot of citizen input into it.
Gotcha.
And yet that bill was not heard. However, we can plan to continue to press the items in that bill throughout this summer. And we need help from the citizens in our state to demand that those criteria be incorporated into the process.
Absolutely.
So that we have voice into the process. It's not going to fix all of the problems that are there,
Yeah.
but it will certainly help eliminate some of this back room, closed windows, no one knows what is going on, business that has been going on for years.
Good. And I know that that's what a lot of people think politics is just this background, behind the scenes deals and talks that no one knows about,
And some of that is necessary, right?
Yeah, of
Some
course.
of that off the record conversations are necessary in order to get agreement among the legislative body. However, there are others that are not, right?
Yeah.
For example, we have heard of instances where legislators have no problem speaking to the governor about the need for their district to be changed. And the governor saying, don't worry about it, we'll take care of you. That is not an acceptable off-the-record conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to eliminate.
Gotcha. Okay, so in terms of kind of what is being done, what currently is your organization doing that is trying to advance these efforts for fair redistricting?
So our own group has monthly meetings.
Okay.
And through those meetings, we use it as an education tool. We have the first part of our meeting is an education component.
Yep.
And then the second part of our meeting is doing something with that component, whether it's creating graphics or making calls or whatever, a call to action, writing opinion pieces. We need people who know how to use a email program that's called Action Network to help us with our emails. There are all different types of things. If you're comfortable going out and talking to your neighbors about it, we will train you in how to talk about community districting and how to bring your point across. The other thing that we have an all-out effort for this summer, this interim between now and the special session, is in getting groups to draw their own community maps. Okay. And we have a mapping tool that is called District R. And we teach you how to use that tool, and then we teach you how to talk to your neighbor in a one-on-one conversation, if you want, about what the important locations and areas are to you in your neighborhood, and what it would mean if they got split. Like you just, because you could be in one district and your neighbor across the street is in another, right? One, yeah. And so that's where those things, we call them communities of interest, right? Where those issues come up is when you're talking within the community and finding out what you have in common. It could be cultural values. It could be transportation, it could be job availability, it could be food, because we have food deserts in Texas, and your accessibility to that is important. It could be also about your parks, or your school. Katy ISD, which is the district that I reside in, has something like 6 or 7 representatives in the House. Okay. So for us to get any traction on promoting an agenda for our district, we have to talk to those 6 or 7 people. And how likely are they to agree on something, right? So if we can minimize those numbers, right, it would make it easier to promote whatever need we have, right? So communities of interest are very important. Drawing the map of your community of interest is extremely important, and that's one of the things that we're zeroing in during the summer.
Good. And I that's a great way for people to understand on a very granular level what goes on with redistricting and how your interests are heard and how they may not be heard, because you may realize when you're talking to your neighbors, hey, maybe keeping my grass at 4 inches is not as important to me as it maybe be my neighbor, or this neighbor may want more rights for solar panels or gun ownership, and that's not a concern for me, or just a few examples of what I think it allows people to really get into the political process and know that, hey, your interests are what influences what district you're in, because it also helps put you in either this party or this party, and that's really I think it's a great way for people to be involved.
If you're on social media, it's really easy. Look for us on Facebook, on Texas Against Gerrymandering _tag, right? Okay. We keep you up to date on everything that is happening, and we
Good.
let you know when you can advocate and how to advocate,
Mhm.
who to call. We even give you their Twitter handle if we have it,
Good. Good.
right?
Good.
So we make it easy, right?
Good.
Then also go to Fair Maps Texas Facebook page.
Mhm.
That is there too. We have a website that we try to keep current, but we need help with that too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And Fair Maps Texas also has a website. And all that information is in there. It's accessible. The importance of more citizens coming forward and participating in the process is so critical.
Absolutely.
Because this is about your community
Yep.
and how it is going to be dealt with in a fair and equitable manner. All of us believe that in one person, one vote,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And we want that vote to have the strength that it deserves
Mhm.
and for it not to be minimized.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking on, some of the things that are going on to make that whole one person, one vote a reality, can you go into some of the current bills that are in the House and the Senate right now, and maybe which representatives and which senators are supporting those and which ones are not? I mean, I know you're nonpartisan, so
We're
you don't,
nonpartisan,
you don't
right?
want to kind of, but I mean, it's good to know, who is in support and who is not, because if redistricting is not an issue to you, then you may not have a problem with it, so.
Well, this is how I'd like to put it. What is going on in the House right now in terms of redistricting is that, like I said, we had those bills. The representatives that presented those bills were primarily from the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay.
Okay, there was one from Houston, and that one was on prison gerrymandering.
Okay.
Because how prisoners are counted is also important.
Oh, wow.
And the reason that is because prisoners can't vote, right?
Yeah.
And wherever they're counted, they go into that pool of the number of people that are required to create a district, right? So in essence, you're putting into a pool people who don't vote, and the party in power wants to put them in that district so that they count, but they know they won't vote.
They won't vote, yeah.
All right?
Wow.
So what reformers of prison gerrymandering look at is counting them in their home location, where they came from, because that way the money will go to that location and it will be used to help the families that they left behind.
Yeah.
Right? Because wherever you were living, if you're counted in the place where you're in prison, they're still going to have to provide services to the family you left behind, but they're not going to have the money to do it, right? So, and we had one from, that's the House. We also had bills from El Paso, Austin, and Dallas, right? And one from co-sponsored from Houston, and that was Ann Johnson. She was recently elected to the House.
Okay.
Right? So in the Senate, the 6 bills that we had were from San Antonio, Laredo, and Dallas.
Gotcha.
Okay? We work to try to get sponsors or supporters among the legislative body.
Yep.
And sometimes that's a difficult task.
Yeah. Well,
And particularly this session, because of you know, our citizenry did such a great job of showing up to the polls in November of 2020.
Yeah.
Casting their vote, making their voice heard, right?
Yeah.
And it was a terrific feeling for all of us,
It was.
a terrific milestone in our history, right? And yet there were some that didn't like it.
Of course.
All
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the whiplash to that is to come back with bills that will make it more difficult for people to show up to the polls.
Yeah.
The status of those bills in Austin right now keeps changing hour by hour. And so it's very difficult at this point to say, from my limited knowledge of it, because I spend all of my time on community districting,
Yep.
right? But what we're going to hear is that there's going to be some limitations placed, maybe in the number of places where you can go vote, maybe in the number of hours, things like that, that will make it harder and more difficult for many people in our areas, particularly in the urban and suburban areas,
Okay.
right? As well as some rural areas are going to be suffering from that too.
Wow.
So it's not like, I was taught that for every action there's not just one reaction,
Yeah.
but there's several reactions.
Yep.
And I don't think enough thought was given by the writers of these bills as to what all of the reactions were going to be.
Yeah.
Because these bills will impact a lot of people.
Yeah. And I mean, I've already heard some of the things, of course, going on in Georgia and in Arizona. You can't even give people water when they're in line to vote, which that has, I don't know what that has to do with voting, but it's really eye-opening things that are being done, all in the effort to curb voter fraud. So, is there anything in particular, both in the voting rights scenarios and also the redistricting scenarios that people should be concerned with? What are ways that they can get more involved?
By one is to be informed.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Find out, educate yourself, listen to groups like ours, right? We will do sessions with groups. If you want to have a meeting in your home, we'll be happy to do a Zoom meeting
Good.
for you in your home, right? If you have a group or an organization, we'll be happy to do a Zoom meeting for you and get you acquainted with what is going on and tell you how to go about doing it. This summer in particular, it's important to be in contact with your legislative representative and senator and voice your opinion and maybe get 3 or 4 more of your friends to voice their opinion,
yeah.
right? Get the people that you do business with often to voice their opinion, right? Because it's going to take all segments of our society speaking up and for what is rightfully something that we should have.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
A transparent, open, fair government.
Yeah. Definitely, that's what it's all about. So, as you heard it there, you guys have some homework that you have to do. Make sure to be informed. First and foremost, just make sure to stay informed, and also reach out to your representatives, your state representatives, your senators as well, and make your voice heard. They are representing you. They got elected for a reason. That is to do good for the citizens. And if you keep quiet, they have no idea if you want something done a certain way. So that was a lot of great information on gerrymandering and of course voting rights. We're going to take one more commercial break. We're going to come back, give some closing tips. I'm going to give you my contact information so that you can reach out to me as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. welcome everybody. Welcome back to Lawyer Up with Steve-O. I'm here with Miss Lydia. We've learned quite a bit about gerrymandering. I hope you have too. It's a lot of things that people should be involved with. So be sure to share this video with your friends so that they can know a little bit about what's going on. And Miss Lydia, I wanted to give you the opportunity to give us maybe some upcoming events that Texas Against Gerrymandering is going to be putting on. So is there anything coming up that we need to know about?
Yes, we're having our monthly meeting on the 13th. It's
Okay.
a Sunday from 3 to 5. It's actually the second Sunday of every month from 3 to 5. We meet. We're meeting on Zoom now. We have people participating from all across the state, right? Sometimes we have small groups. Sometimes we have a larger group. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to help people hear the word and what they need to do, right? That's an important part. The other thing is, if you don't know who your representative is, go online and put in who represents me, and it will take you to a spot where you put in your address, and by magic you're told who represents you. So who could make it any easier, right?
It's as easy as that. I mean, everybody has smartphones and tablets and computers, so it's very easy to go online and just search for who represents you. If you don't know, it'd be a good time to now go and see. You may not be as involved, but it's a great way to
if
know.
you're a registered voter and you haven't lost your voter card, it also tells you on that card your House district, your Senate district, your congressional district, your precinct, right? All these things, these valuable pieces of information are on that voter card.
Good. So you guys have a lot of different ways to know exactly where you're located in this whole political process, as well as who specifically represents you, so you can pick up the phone and give those representatives a call. So you have a lot. Well, I wouldn't say it's a lot to do. It's actually things that you should be doing, and that's the way you're going to become more involved. Because when we're more informed, we're more involved, we get our society in a better place. So. All right, so my contact information, let me just give that to you in case anyone has any questions, in case you want me to get a message to Miss Lydia, or if you have any questions about what we talked about during this podcast. My phone number is 833-529-9748. My email is contact@goodmanmcgill.com. My website is www.goodmanmcgill.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, so you know all the ways that you can reach me. You can give me feedback about my show, about my episodes. If you want to appear as a guest on my show, definitely feel free to reach out to me. We want to make sure that we highlight a lot of great individuals like Miss Lydia that are really helping out the community and fighting the good fight in many different ways. And remember, when life gets you down, remember to lawyer up. We'll see you everybody next week. Have a good weekend. And a safe podcast on the Boss Up Houston Network. Come get your questions answered. We'll see you then. And remember, lawyer up.